We got our Clean Boy water here.
Yes.
So what's in
Clean
this?
Boy Fall?
Clean Boy Fall.
So the cleanest thing that a clean boy can drink
Okay.
is rose water. Mm-hmm. So we have the purest, cleanest water you can find from Erewhon. This is not sponsored, but it'd be nice if
We
it
wish,
was.
yeah.
We wish. Spend way too much money there. But it has rose water in it.
Nice.
Rose extract from
Okay.
Bulgarian roses. So
Cheers.
cheers.
I see what you mean.
You taste it?
Oh, absolutely. It tastes
It's
like
clean.
a nice spa.
It tastes clean.
Like a 5-star spa.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is nice. That is good stuff, dude.
We have a couple other drinks.
Yes, we do.
It's a 3-drink morning.
Yes, very important. Very important. 3 drinks.
So this is apple. There's actually chunks of apple in it
Oh,
that
nice.
you might see in
Yes, yes, I do see it now.
there. Manuka honey, cinnamon, DMSO or DSMO,
DSMO,
liver
yeah, I think
nano,
you're right.
and something else.
Yeah.
But it's
it tastes fantastic.
yeah, very good. And then of course we've
A little
got
sparkling water.
our Erewhon coffee. Which,
Fantastic.
Cheers.
Cheers to that as well. Dude, thank you so much for having me in your home here.
Of course.
It's a fantastic setup. We had a great little morning routine this morning.
We are biohacked
Yep.
to the max. I don't even really consider myself a biohacker, but we did everything
Yep.
that one could possibly do to prepare for a podcast.
Did you see that video of Colin that went viral on Twitter?
No.
You didn't see that?
No.
Dude, it was, I think it ended up getting like 50 million views.
Was it Colin's ridiculous morning routine?
Yes.
Oh my God. I love Colin. We had some of his actually, you know what? Let's shout out his supplement.
Yes, Division 1.
Division 1 supplements by Colin and Wade. Wade is his business partner.
Yep.
He's the funniest guy I've ever met, but Colin is one of my best friends and one of the most genuine dudes I know. And he created this supplement company, D1, Division 1, and it has beef liver, beef testicles,
Yep.
among a couple other of the essential nutrients. We had some of that.
Yeah.
But so what did he do in his morning routine?
So it started with like mouth taped in bed, and then he went and did his red light. And so it was like maybe like a 2-hour routine before he started his work.
Yeah.
Which obviously, you know, like with Twitter, that sparked quite the controversy of people saying that it was nonsense versus everything under the sun. But it's quite a funny video. It's like, it's funny.
Yeah, I think Colin knows what he's doing there too.
Yeah.
He knew that would like trigger people.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? Knowing Colin, he actually does that every day. He really does. And I mean, I'm pretty religious to my morning routine as well, but it's a little bit different than his.
Yeah. So walk us through what we did this morning.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the best place to start is just with the story behind it.
Yeah.
And then getting into how it all came to be. And I alluded to a little bit of the background about, you know, my journey the past year or so. But I think, you know, I almost feel more comfortable.
Lean back a little bit.
Do a little
I'm going to do the same in the spirit.
in the spirit of this journey we're about to go on. It's been first of all, this is our 3rd podcast together.
Yes.
And it's one of my favorite podcasts that I do. So thank you for having me. And thank you to the Alchemist Library listeners. But this, I would say, since we've had our last podcast, it's been an absolutely insane transformation. So I have a lot to share.
And I'm excited to get into it.
So I believe our last podcast was October.
It was August.
Oh, it was August
of last year. So almost a little over a year.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. So last year, let's start there. And by the way, this story it's a story of like total experience of a transformation of like achieving inner freedom. Mm-hmm. And coming from a pretty dark place actually, to what feels like I've found the source of what every major religion and spiritual teacher has been pointing to for thousands of years. Like people talk about how the kingdom of heaven is within, and a guy named Jesus might have said that once or twice. Moses alluded to it for our Jewish people. Muhammad was talking about it all the time. Certainly, the Hindus were talking about it. Krishna, as far back as Krishna, which interesting. Krishna, Christna, similar.
Very similar.
Who knows? But so I literally feel like I found what Eckhart Tolle calls, the bedrock of peace within you, and I've touched it, and I'm there. I'm tapping into that every moment, even right now, and it's a very great and relaxing and peaceful place to be. But I wasn't here a year ago, so it kind of shows. What I'm about to go into will show the transformation that one can have if they're dedicated and curious and seeking truth. And so it starts out. Well, it started out around August. I was very in a very entrepreneurial place then, like super. And as we were talking, it was very business focused and growth focused on my business tribe accelerator at the time, and Maxi, and I just had a lot of different projects. I had one-on-one clients, coaching people on branding and positioning, and how to get the life you want was kind of my whole thing that I was talking about mostly, and also what I was focusing on myself. How do I make the conditions of my life perfect? How do I make money, get my girlfriend to do what I want her to do?
Yeah.
That was my focus. And I came to find out that even after kind of maximizing that path, that it didn't really bring me to a super happy place. And I found myself also throughout 2023, I was exploring, I was really still searching for truth, all simultaneously while searching for this perfection of external circumstances. And I was reading the Bible, I was reading the Quran, I was studying, Islamic mystics. I went to Israel and was learning from Hasidic Jews about their practices of truth. And I was just really open. I was talking to friends of mine that are Christian, that fully believe in the second coming of Christ as like a physical phenomenon that's going to happen. And I found myself around November. I think it was around November, early December. I went back to visit my parents, and I was there, and I was just like, none of this makes sense. I was just like, all of these religions are conflicting each other. The Islams don't believe Jesus came back to life. The Jews never believed that Jesus was the Messiah in the first place. But yet there is truth in all of these. It's just I don't know what is happening. Like, I don't know what the truth is. Mm-hmm. And so I found myself going back to atheist arguments. When I was in college, I was like heavily focused on learning atheism.
Mm-hmm. Like the Sam Harris.
Sam Harris.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, not the atheism is not, it's literally non-theism. It's not a set of beliefs. It's just like, this is why religion and spirituality is stupid and causing wars and etc. And so I got back I literally started reading Sam Harris again. And I was like, oh, maybe the highest level of truth is what Sam Harris is saying, which is like science. Morality is based on, just cause as little harm to people as possible, which makes sense. And there's like a moral landscape, and he has a book called The Moral Landscape I was reading. And I just found myself there, and I was like, yeah, you know what? This kind of does make sense, but at the same time, I'm not satisfied with this path either. And so I'm at my house, and I pick up this book that I had read about 6 years prior, and the book is called Autobiography of a Yogi. Actually, let me grab it.
Go pick it up.
I should grab a bunch.
All right,
So we've got. I just had to grab all of these so we can talk about these. So this is the original book, The Autobiography of a Yogi.
famously given out at Steve Jobs' funeral.
Yes. And also, just mic check. I think that's going to be too far.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
But I just was
Like
worried.
right about here is like has to be.
Do you think that this is Can you quickly check that?
Yeah, let me
See if
check.
this is.
So, all right. So I pick up this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, which, as you said, was given out famously at Steve Jobs' funeral. And it was also the one book he had on his iPad. Mm-hmm. George Harrison from the Beatles is quoted on the back of the book, and he says, "I keep stacks of Autobiography of a Yogi around the house, and I give it out constantly to people. And when people need regrooving, I say, read this because it cuts to the heart of every religion." And so I pick up this book, and I'm rereading it, and I'm like, oh, like, this is right. Like, this guy was onto it. You know, like, whatever he's talking about here, and there's some wild stuff. I'm like, this is the truth, because it cuts to the heart of every religion, as George Harrison said. And it just showed me that the real truth that Christians, Hindus, Jews, Buddhists, Muslims, every major religion, we're all talking about the same thing, just using different language. And so I'm reading this book, and I'm like, wow, okay, this feels good. But at the same time, like, the reason I'd picked this up is because I was in like a dark place. Mm-hmm. My life was going well externally. You know, I was making more money than I ever had, like lots of profit too, just like stacking cash. Relationship going pretty well. I would say it was going as well as it could have been for the paradigm that I was in, which was like a paradigm of control, you know. And I do like hate to admit it, but like I had kind of figured out how to control my girlfriend in a way that made her do what made me happy, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it's not like she was miserable doing it, but like I was definitely there's a bit of manipulation in that. You know, you're trying to control someone, there's a bit of manipulation. So there's that, but you know, the relationship was going well, making a lot of money, but like I wasn't fulfilled at all. Every night I was waking up with anxiety. Every morning, I remember so clearly, I just had this pain in my chest, like just gnawing, like a big giant knot in my heart. Like there was maybe glass just piercing my heart. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. The one thing I wasn't really doing was meditating. You know, I was doing it here and there, but not going super deep. And, you know, I just didn't feel good. And I knew I was helping people with my business, but it just didn't feel fulfilling or like it just didn't feel right is the best way I could describe it. So we had been traveling for the past several years nomadically, Chloe and I, and finally decided to sign a lease. We looked at a bunch of places. There was this one place we loved in Malibu, actually, deep in Malibu. And we applied, we got rejected from it. And we were like, what? Like, we clearly showed that we could pay, but for some reason they denied us. And they didn't have any good reason to deny us, but they just did. And so we end up here in this place. And Chloe found this apartment. I'm like, it is gorgeous. You know, the other one was a house, and it just was beautiful. Like it was in nature, and I was kind of excited about that idea. So this was not our first choice, but we ended up here, right? And it's obviously beautiful in every way. And as you'll see, I've come to absolutely love it. But at the beginning of the year, I was like, all right, well, you know, we'll get a house eventually. Mm-hmm. So we move in here, and here we are, you know, waking up on the ocean, beautiful apartment. There's like, you know, famous rappers that live in this building. There's centimillionaires. Like it's a very luxurious place to live. Yet still, every night, I'm waking up with that anxiety, and throughout the day, I just have this knot in my chest. And a couple weeks in living here, my friend Milan comes to visit. Would be a great podcast with him, by the way. Milan is a 25-year-old entrepreneur. Him and his co-founder, or the founder of the company, Yassine, is also a very good friend of mine. And Milan's a co-founder. They've raised $250 million for their company. And he's also a yogi. So Milan meditates 4 or 5 hours a day. And he's from India too. So he knows who Yogananda is. And he came to visit me here within the first couple weeks that I'd moved in. And I was just really excited to talk to him because I was like, I had to tell someone about this like pain in my heart.
Yep.
It is weird. Like I literally had what felt like glass in my heart. He told me, yeah, that's the heart chakra. You know, you've basically pierced the heart chakra. It's an energy center. And anyone listening, by the way, I love explaining this to people who, especially Christians, because Christians are very wary of like Hindu type religion. And they're like, oh, chakras, that's demonic. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just trust me. And I just explain to them, I'm like, where do you feel love? You feel it in your toe? No, you feel it in the heart. You feel it right here in your chest. A chakra is just an energy center. So when you talk about chakras, it's not, there's no way it could possibly be demonic. If I ask you, where do your thoughts happen? Do they happen in your finger? No, they happen in your head.
Yep.
Right? You have a gut feeling about
I
something.
was just about to say that. Yeah.
Where does that happen? Happens in your gut. These are just energy centers that obviously stuff is happening there. And guess what? Every major spiritual tradition is talking about these energy centers, but just has different words. So anyway, I'm explaining this to Milan. I have this pain in my heart. I don't know what it's about. I've tried everything. We're talking about it. We go for a workout. And on the way back from the workout, we pass this temple that's right next door. And I had seen it. I knew it was there. I drove by it a bunch of times throughout my time living in LA, but I didn't think to look at what it was. And it's called the Self-Realization Fellowship. And Milan looks at it and he goes, oh, there's an FRS. He goes, oh, there's an SRF right here. And I'm like, SRF? I've heard of that. Like, so. And as soon as he said it, I started connecting dots. I'm like, why have I heard of that before? And he's like, Self-Realization Fellowship is Yogananda's ashram. Like it's his, and that Lake Shrine is the founding headquarters in the United States. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And I open up the book.
Right there.
And just, I mean, I don't know if the camera will be able to see this, but in the back of Autobiography of a Yogi, there is a picture of the Self-Realization Fellowship, Lake Shrine, and Gandhi World Peace Memorial, located right next door, where I moved in walking distance.
We drove by it this morning.
We drove by it this morning to get our Clean Boy energy stuff. And I happened to move in next door.
Yep.
After being rejected from a place that we clearly should have been accepted to, I'm like, Yogananda's calling my name. You know, like I'm clearly being pulled toward this center. So I start just going. And it turns out they have, every Sunday, they have a inspirational lecture. There's monks that live on the property. And, you know, they're not Indian. They're actually, they all look like they could be pastors at a church or, you know, they're just older white dudes. There's actually one guy who's Latino-ish descent, maybe South America somewhere. But most of the guys are just like older, white guys. But they've been monks for like their whole, like 40 years.
Crazy.
And they wear the orange robe and they go up for an hour and they lead a meditation and then they give a talk. And it's just an inspirational talk about some of the deep teachings, you know, of surrender, of making changes in your life, of how to just experience peace. And so I start going basically every Sunday. And then I come to find out that every Sunday night from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., they host a 3-hour meditation, guided with like chanting, and they have some instruments, and then it goes into a period of silence. So it's like 10 minutes, they sing, then it's silent for 10 minutes, singing, chanting, silent. So I start doing that too. And then I start to meditate every single day to start the day. I had also started working with this coach, this guy named Alan Howard. Shout out to Alan. He's absolutely incredible. And although he's not unlike the Yogananda teachings, it's all universal truth. And this guy lives down in Brazil, and he basically specializes in helping men to break through that heart chakra energy and to move from their head and control, the paradigm of control, which the third chakra center, right here in the navel, is the center of control. Most people are in that center of control. That's where I was. I was trying to control my business, control my money, control my girlfriend, right? And control the circumstances of my life so that I could be okay, so I could feel good. But that doesn't work. Eventually you hit a wall because sometimes it rains and you don't want it to rain, right?
Yeah.
Life is, for the most part, out of your control. So I start working with him. I'm going to this ashram. I'm meditating. And I go to one of the lectures on Sunday. And the monk says, you know, if you're looking to make a change in your life, and at this time, you know, I'm starting to identify that I'm not satisfied with my work. Like I just am not happy with the business I was running. Mm-hmm. He says, if you're looking to make a change, you don't need to change forever. You can just try a change for 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, you can go back to your old ways if you don't like what you did. Or you can keep it permanent. So I'm like, okay. And he continues and he says, you know, it's kind of like going to the store and buying clothes. You don't go in and just grab clothes off the rack and walk out. You pick a bunch of items you like, you go to the changing room, you try them on, and then if you like something, you buy it, you leave. When you get home, you try it on again, you don't like it, you can return it. So that's how I felt. I was like, I want to make a change in my life. I don't want to work on the business I was working on, the brand I was building. It doesn't feel aligned. And so I realized what I really want to do is I want to make music. And I had played piano my whole life. You know, I took lessons from the age of 5. And in all the video editing I did for YouTube videos, hundreds of YouTube videos I made from 2016 till now, there's so much sound design involved and music and like cinematic sequences with sound effects and music. And I loved that. And I had always told myself that one day after I make $20 million, then I'll make music. Mm-hmm. And I just realized, okay, well, why don't I just make music for 30 days? I don't have to make $20 million to make music. I can just do it now and see if I like it. And I couldn't, you know, 10 plus years of formal piano lessons every week. And I never made my own original song. 15 years of editing sound design videos, you know, but never made my own song. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it, you know? And I think I should also mention that as I was building my business in 2023, I had a videographer working for me named Jack Bratzett, who had been working with me since 2021. So we were together for about 3 years. And over the course of us working together, Jack had started getting into music. And as he was getting into it, and he was getting into mainly DJing and producing as well, but mainly his focus was on just learning how to DJ, I was like, man, this is cool. And I saw him doing it. And then came to a point where it was kind of a mutual firing, but like it was time for me to let him go. And then he just became a full-time music traveling DJ. And so I saw him do that and I was like, well, I kind of want to do that too a little bit. Not so much the DJing, but more the producing side. So finally I just like, all right, 30 days, I'm going to try to pursue this music thing. And that's, I hope for people listening, like an encouraging point, you know, if you want to make a change in your life, 30 days.
Just try it on.
Stop whatever else is pissing you off and just try it on. Try the clothes on. 30 days. So I did that and I ended up producing the song Wait For It. You know, I had to learn the basics of like Ableton and you know, how to actually make a song, mm-hmm. right? But after 30 days, I produced Wait For It, had a couple others in the works. I put it out. The response was like, people were like, yo, this is really good. Like, people really liked it. And I felt as I was making it, like, this is good, you know, like, and I have a specific taste, house music, but I'm like, I would actually listen to this song. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's actually really good. And so I got hooked. But then, of course, the 30 days ended. And I was like, all right, I guess I got to go back to making money again. Mm-hmm. And around this time was when conveniently, you know, crypto meme coins started getting, it was meme coin mania, which usually lasts about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm getting all these texts from friends and crypto group chats like, hey, you got to invest in this thing and this thing. And this guy just made $700,000 in a day. And this, you know, like, And I started thinking, oh, maybe if I do this, then like I can make enough money and I won't have to work and I'll just do crypto and like, and then I'll go back to music full time. Right.
Yeah.
So I started doing the crypto stuff, meme coins. And like I'm aping in, like I'm just gambling at this point.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know what I'm doing really. Just throwing money here, throwing money there. And I'm just antsy and anxious. And I had stopped meditating too. Previous 30 days, I was meditating every morning for an hour and then making music. Now I was waking up, checking my wallet. Waking up, like getting a text from some guy that I talked to couple years ago that was in crypto and sketchy, group chats here, Telegram, like, and then like a couple days of that, I woke up and I was just like, oh my God, what the fuck am I doing? Like the contrast was so clear. On one hand, I was waking up and creating art and connecting to the peace of God. And on the other hand, I was a slave to this imaginary bullshit coins, money altogether is like a made up human thing. It's a tool. It's useful. Yeah. Not against it, but I was basing my whole day around it, my whole life. And I realized that was the problem. It was that I was chasing this piece of paper instead of creating something that's truly long lasting. And in that moment, I started to think about all the people I look up to from history, from famous painters to, the painting behind me right now, a friend of mine, and also a young artist that I've started collecting. His name's Sage Willows. Like, this is a beautiful piece of art.
It really is.
And then I think about, everyone else I look up to, and the Drakes and Kanye's and Virgil Abloh, and even back in like the Renaissance art days of Rembrandt and Peter Paul Rubens and, famous painters of the day. And, my mom's a painter. My dad's focuses on art heavily. And I realized that nobody cares how much money Rembrandt had when he was 27 years old. Nobody knows. Nobody will ever know. And so no one cares how much money you or I have right now at all. The only thing that people care about is what you create, the art that you put into the world. That's it. That's all people will ever care about. And no one knows how much money Albert Einstein had when he was 27. No one knows how much money. Think of anybody great. Da Vinci. I've got my Leonardo book over there. Nobody knows how much money Da Vinci had. Nobody knows how much money Yogananda had. And guess what? Nobody cares. Absolutely no one cares. Yet we live in this culture where on Instagram, like everyone is flexing a Bugatti and a private jet. It's like nobody's going to remember that. Like unless you're John D. Rockefeller or like, Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos, you might care how much money they had. But even still, it's what they created.
Yeah.
So I just like, what point is making money if it's not creating something long lasting and original, like truly from the heart, from the soul. And that's when I just was like, I'm going full in on this. And I dedicated the next 6 or 7 months, every single day. My routine was I would wake up, do the morning routine we did today, which was the question. So warm up my body a bit, pray to God, and then meditate. And I mean, normally I would meditate longer, but we wanted to I didn't want to have you sit for a full hour, but I would meditate for an hour and then I would create music the rest of the day. Did that for 6 or 7 months straight. And now, we're about a week after the release of the 8 a.m. album. That's been the journey. And that's in part where the morning routine that we kind of did just came from.
That's such a great story. And I appreciate you telling it. And I want to get into, the album and all the individual tracks and that whole thing. But before that point, like when you're spending this 6 or 7 months just creating, and you're doing this album, like where's your head at? Are you uncertain at times? Like, dude, what if I just waste this 6 or 7 months and then this thing is is nothing, or was there such peace in the moment of doing, you know, that love of art? Like, did you feel that at the moment where it was like, I don't even care what the response is, what the outcome is, because, you know, this was what I needed to be doing?
That's a great question. And there's a whole other teaching behind like that whole process, right? Because it's not like I just started making music and like I have plenty of money to live in this apartment that's extremely expensive and like live in LA, and like we had all these weddings to afford. I battled heavily during the time period that I was creating the album with like fear and insecurity about living basically off savings, you know, because
Scary feeling.
Dude, I mean, I'm not in the average person's position. Like, obviously I've made a decent chunk of money, not that much, you know, I spend a lot, but I did have like a good kind of nest egg of cash, and crypto that I basically just sold all into cash. However, I did move into this place. My expenses here are tens of thousands of dollars a month, you know, just living in LA. And it's expensive. It's one of the most expensive places in the world. You know, it's hard to even buy groceries. You know, eggs are $15 a dozen, you know? So I was often like battling with that. Like, I know that I'm creating something that's going to outlive me, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford rent in a couple months. Like, I really was looking at not only that, but like a pretty big tax bill, like these crazy monthly expenses for this place. For the lease is another 8-9 months at that point. And I was considering ending the lease because I was like, I don't know if I can afford it the rest of the year. And so that was a battle, but that's where the meditation would come in. And basically what I did is I would meditate an hour, but it soon became, what I would do is I would meditate to the point where I felt peace. Mm-hmm. So I turned off the timer because I realized the timer was like, it is actually kind of pointless, like timing your meditation. Because if you don't touch the bedrock of consciousness of God and the kingdom of heaven within yourself, and would you I was gonna say, is that peace? Like, is that what that state is? Yeah. The place that all spiritual teachers and Christ and Krishna and Yogananda were all talking about is a verifiable place that we can all access. You know, Jesus literally said, the kingdom of heaven, you will not be able to say it's over there or it's over there. You won't be able to point to it. The kingdom of heaven does not come with signs that can be perceived. He said the kingdom of heaven is within you. Mm-hmm. So that's a place within you that if you dig deep enough past the restlessness of thoughts and emotions and worries, there is this everlasting peace that surpasses all understanding. And these are, you know, a lot of these words are coming straight out of the Bible, mm-hmm. right? Out of the red letters. And so that was the goal, was every day touch peace, but I was constantly anxious. And Chloe was anxious. You know, Chloe's like, are you sure? Like, we should be just spending savings? Like, I'm like, I'm sure. You know, I trust. And I also realized, you know, and this is another part of the spiritual practice, huge part of it is there's another book that I read called The Surrender Experiment.
Michael Singer. Wait, what? Singer? Okay.
Yeah. And that was hugely influential, specifically with this aspect, because there's many times in that book that he almost ran out of money, but he was following his truth and his path, and money would just show up. Sometimes literally he didn't even know how it would show up, but right when he was about to run out, a check would arrive in the mail, or like an envelope of cash, like something like that. And I was like, did that? Hold on.
We're all good with that?
Yeah. And, you know, Eckhart Tolle as well, Power of Now, which I'm sure you've read.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of your listeners have read The Power of Now. He talks about in the creation of this book, it's in A New Earth, he mentions this. When he was writing The Power of Now, he was completely broke. Like he was living off few like spiritual kind of like people would pay him for advice back then, but he wasn't famous, and he had like $1,000 left in his account. And then he published The Power of Now, and it was kind of like going here and there, but then all of a sudden he gets invited on Oprah. And it just blows up. And now I started looking at Eckhart, and I'm like, man, Eckhart's really got it figured out. And actually, another crazy coincidence, that in December, I had booked an Eckhart Tolle retreat. He was coming to California to do a 4-day retreat. So I went to that. This was in around May, I think. Yeah, May. And so I go to this Eckhart Tolle event. I get to see him in person, and I read Power of Now probably 7 or 8 years ago, and got to see what that was like. But I also got to see from a art form perspective. Like obviously his art form is just speaking, and here's a guy who doesn't do anything except his craft, but he's so good at it that he's got this whole business that just emerged around him. And it's all aligned with the teachings. Jesus said, "Seek ye the kingdom of God first," right? And everything else will be added unto you. And Jesus is not the only one, but many spiritual teachers have said, when you find the kingdom within first, you find the peace that passes all understanding, everything else is added to you. And I'm looking at Eckhart on the stage giving his talk. I'm like, there is no way this guy's doing business administrative work. He's not managing a sales team. He's not figuring out how a tripod works even.
Yep.
He's just doing his art. And people around him, they emerge. And so I started to find the same exact thing with the album, which was just crazy. Like I learned pretty quickly that in order for a song that you hear, anyone make to sound good, you have the artist, which I'm the artist, but then you have a sound engineer. And the sound engineer is responsible for making sure all the levels of every instrument, because sometimes you have like 50 tracks in a song and they all cannot overlap frequencies. So you might have a drum playing the same time as a voice that's low, and they have to be...
One can't drown out the other.
Exactly. Or else it sounds muddy and gross. So I needed a sound engineer, and sound engineers are not cheap, and I'm like spending savings. I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I posted on my Instagram and I was like, hey, anyone can help with this? And this guy, Ryan, responds and he goes, hey, I've been studying this for a decade. Been doing this for a decade. His professor in college mastered the Abbey Road album for the Beatles. And he happened to be on his Instagram. He doesn't even use Instagram ever, but he happened to see my story. And I call him, and he happens to be in like a $100,000 recording studio at the time that I call him. And he only had like a few minutes. And I'm like, hey, dude. He's like, hey, man. Yeah, I like your stuff. I've seen it here and there. I'm like, thanks, man. I'm looking for a sound engineer. And he's like, yeah, I'd love to help out. So I basically kind of explained the project and playing some songs. And he agrees, despite being paid tens of thousands of dollars per project he works on, he agrees to mix and master the whole thing for free, just to be a part of the project and put it out. He believed in the mission. And that kind of stuff kept happening. I put out this set when I finished the album. I recorded this video of me, mixing
Such a cool
the set.
video.
Really cool,
Yeah.
right? The day before that, I just posted again on my Instagram and said any videographers in LA that have a drone and can... Actually, no, I just said videographers. I had one guy reach out saying he'd love to do it and he'd love to do it for free. And then the day of the shoot, I was like, I need a drone. I know I need a drone, but I don't have one. And actually, you know what? I thought I had one. So last minute, I realized I didn't have one and I posted, and this guy Toro reaches out And Toro's like, yeah, I can fly. He's like, all I want's an 8 a.m. hoodie. I'm like, oh, bet. Okay. So 3 of us go and we insane timing, get there right before sunset. We find this location in Malibu Canyon. And dude, like, I just do the set. I never even DJ'd my own music before. I didn't really barely know what I was doing in that video, to be completely honest.
That's fantastic.
But it worked.
Yeah.
And like, I know the basics, so it worked. And we come back to look at the footage and I'm like, holy shit, it looks like we spent like $50,000 on this production. We scrape it together a day of.
That's
incredible. And those guys sat there with me and they edited it for like until like 3 a.m. We just sat there, 3 of us right here, and just chopped it up.
Fantastic.
I post a screenshot just on my Instagram story, like, yo, this is crazy. And I have a guy from Denmark reach out who's a professional colorist who color grades like films. And he goes, hey, down to color this for you. My rate for Arlin, 0.
Amazing, dude.
Like, a colorist is not cheap either. Yeah. So now it's like I got this whole, it just came together. And that was like a few days before the release. And then I released it. And it just was like, it's just crazy. There's one more part of this that kind of goes with the surrender. So obviously I've kind of centered everything around 8 a.m. The first song I made, Wait For It, there's a kind of a breakdown section, and I kind of remember I was making the song and I just heard my girlfriend Chloe's voice just come over the mic and say, you know, open your eyes. There's nowhere to go. Wait for it. Like that. That's just, I was just like, say that. It sounds like a house song. It sounds cool. Sounds kind of poetic, like very unplanned. She's never like sung or sang or recorded herself at all. Just worked. And then I told her to say, welcome to 8 a.m. This is 8 a.m. And it just felt right. 8 a.m. was a brand I had worked on 2016 to 2018. It was my first ever business. And it was this clothing brand, 8 a.m. And it was the most like artistic business that I'd ever worked on. But I stopped because the info product business was just more profitable. And so the clothing business is, you know, it's kind of a hassle. You got supply and all this. And when you're traveling, it's just difficult to manage. So I said that. I was like, I don't really know why I said that, but whatever. A week later, after I put the song out, a box of 8 a.m. hoodies arrives that I had ordered about 8 months prior, like in July. Mm-hmm. And this is now in like March-ish. March is when I did the experiment. So box of 8 a.m. hoodies just shows up at my door that was 8 months late. Like, and I open it and I'm like, I literally forgot that I even ordered these, but like now it's like, welcome to 8 a.m. Like, oh my God, I get like, and then I realized everything that I was doing aligns under 8 a.m. as a brand. So you have the clothing brand. You have Maxi. I transformed Maxi, the personal development app, you know, planning tool, mindset tool, into the 8 a.m. app. And Maxi is a component of the 8 a.m. app. I have Tribe, which is my course and, you know, members club. I just rebranded it, and this is now relaunching again as the 8 a.m. club. So, or 8 a.m. members club. So it was just like this. All I did, simply put, is I started meditating more. I started locating that sense of peace within myself, and my entire external life just totally aligned. And the best part is that now I no longer have that glass sticking out of my heart. It's completely gone. Yeah. And I just feel this ease and this flow, and things are just happening. Like they like, all I can really describe it is like, I do what life puts in front of me.
It's like that Carl Jung quote of the whole world, when you're on the right path, the whole world conspires in your favor.
Yes.
It's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, and it sounds a bit, you know, woo-woo to the person listening, but, you know, having experienced a similar sensation for myself, you're like, it's just so much reassurance that like you're doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And you feel it. Mm-hmm. You feel it deep down. So I see, the creative act up there, Rick Rubin's book. And when you're creating an album from scratch, it's your first time ever doing this. Like, there's obviously, I know creativity is kind of like your first love. Like, that is at the core of all the stuff you're doing. And it seems like this project was just a way to tap back into that core. What was that process like to tap back into it? Because right now, like, for most people with TikTok, Instagram, and just the mundane life that they go through, they struggle to tap into that space to make things happen.
Yeah, it's a polluted environment. Social media these days, I described it yesterday to a friend as just people throwing poop at the wall all day. Yep. And you're just scrolling different versions of people throwing poop at the wall. And so, like, getting out of that and being like, all right, I'm going to create my version of the Mona Lisa.
Which is a great way to think about things, because how few people have ever sat down and be like, I'm going to create a masterwork.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to create something that I know when people experience it, they're going to be like, wow, like, this is great.
Yeah.
This is greatness. And that's what I was after. I wanted to really create a piece of content, that I know would live, centuries, and just be a living, breathing work that also transforms people. And that's what I feel I was able to do. I guess time will tell, really, but so far the response has been amazing. I can speak to that. What that was like, starting to do that was just like the greatest experience that I probably have ever had. Just and I had it before, like, loosely, when I started my YouTube channel and I was posting daily vlogs. This is, pre social media was different. There was less poop on the wall. It was more like people actually took time into these videos they were putting on YouTube. There was no short form, so it wasn't as, like, hypey. And I remember, back then I was, like, just taken over by this flow state. And it would be to the point where it was hard for me to sleep, not because of anxiety, but because of passion.
Great feeling.
And just enthusiasm, I think, is the best way to describe it. And so I just found myself, like, in these major flow states, to the point where, in the Bible it says, man does not live by food and bread alone, but by every word that leaves the mouth of the Father. We are not meat suits that just exist off of water and, as great as our coffee is, or,
or clean boy beverages,
our eggs and our, liver, beef liver, whatever. We are spiritual beings that are fed by the soul and the energy of God. The mouth of the Father is literally a point in our bodies that God breathes life into us. And so when I was making music and when people are engaging in a creative act, they are being powered by this otherworldly energy. And so you often find yourself, or at least I often find myself, where I wake up, I do my meditation. I typically don't eat till a little bit later in the day, maybe have some water and coffee, juice and coffee, rose water and coffee. And then I just won't be hungry until like 7 p.m. because I'm just being fueled by the word, or the vibration, the energy, the spirit, the Holy Spirit. In Hinduism, they talk about Sat Chit Ananda. Same thing as Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And this Holy Spirit, which I believe is Ananda, I forget which one, is this energy that the total, and by the way, this all loops in with science. I could give a whole scientific kind of explanation of this as well. But this cosmic, universal star energy is powering us. It's not even oxygen that's powering us. So that's what I feel when I'm creating something like this. It's like total charging of every cell in your body to where you don't need anything else.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's, have you read any of Stephen Pressfield's work?
Yes.
Like when he talks about resistance and these forces that, you know, are trying to block us from entering that state. Because there definitely is this this wall you have to go through in order to tap into that. Did you feel a lot of resistance like with this project outside of the major stuff that we talked about before with like financially and, you know, kind of just a recommitment to getting back to the art?
Yeah, the major resistance is kind of what we talked about before, which was the just the insecurity about money and worrying if, you know, I'm spending too much savings. That was like the main form of resistance that I kept feeling and feeling like I need to just, I kept telling Chloe like, oh, next week I'm going to go back to focusing on money. But of course that kept getting pushed back. And then pretty soon I actually thought I was going to be done in April 10th. I remember I was going to do my album release party, April 10th. And 6 months later. So
here we are.
The power of what I was taking on and the project that became the 8 a.m. album was just so powerful that it just mowed over any resistance other than the one I already described. It was just like...
The resistance was the years up to this point.
Yes, exactly. And it became such that, the energy behind the project, the positive light behind the project was just like so overwhelming. Not to mention we're next to the spiritual headquarters. And like I said, there's a lot of things going on here, like working in that goodness. You've got the ocean, the mountains, it's like...
It's a place that's very conducive.
Yeah. And I put my desk in the living room looking at, like, I want to sit there, you know, and work. So I set up the conditions as far as I could. Well, I didn't actually do much controlling again. It was just like...
It naturally fell aligned.
I happened to move next door to an ashram. I did not control that. Out of my control.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's like, where are you at now with this? Now that things are, you know, you have that sigh of relief that the album's out there in the world. And you just dedicated so much time to this, and it's like, where's your head at with things now? Like, do you have a clear picture of what you want to do next? Is there now that reassurance that I just want to keep tapping back into this flow?
Yeah. So I think in the past week since it's been out, I anticipated that what would happen is I would release this thing that I knew people were going to love it. I knew how good it was, and I'd played it, here and there for some friends. But collectively releasing it, I knew that things would just happen. Someone would hear it and be like, "Oh, we want you to perform this here," or so I don't know. Someone might invite me to travel somewhere and whatever, right? Like,
opportunities were going to come.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing I would say major has happened in the first week, but a lot of very, very interesting people that I never would have thought to get in contact with have reached out. One of the guys that runs one of the biggest, house music Instagram pages and networks, who works with every major house artist you could think of on their releases. Turns out he's been following me for a few years and loves the album.
Yep.
I had like an hour plus phone call with him. He was just helping me out, like giving me tips. I had someone from Fred Again's team reach out. The guy that actually hosted his Boiler Room set in London. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I have.
So that guy,
very famous video.
Yeah, that guy who's like, I'd love to help you host your album release party. So, and he's from London, so he'd come out here to do that.
Wow.
Chloe and I looked at some venues for the album release party, which we're planning, or otherwise known as I want to call it 8 a.m. Fest. So I have some visions for that in the works. Clothing brand, just working on designs. Now that the album's done, I've been getting back into the clothing design process. And then really starting up the 8 a.m. Members Club, which Of course, I previously ran the Tribe Network, which was 700 members worldwide. So now just really building up the 8 a.m. Members Club, which is essentially a network and community for artist entrepreneurs and, people looking to meet and create with other like-minded creatives. Long term, my vision is for it to be kind of like a Soho House type place, physical location, but you walk in and not only is there like a gym, sauna, steam room, there's like a place you can meditate and there's a recording studio and other, podcast room. It's just creative space plus the wellness. And I don't think much out there exists like that.
No.
So that's the long term. So 8 a.m. Members Club is the, as of right now, meetups, they're going to get VIP access to the 8 a.m. festival, which should be in the next 1 or 2 months. And then new clothing collections. Aside from that, I'm approaching business from just a place of like total surrender too. And it's just different, man. It's just like, not only do I have more experience, but like I'm not forcing outcomes.
Yeah.
For example, like the Members Club, I'm building it in a way like previously I was just very focused on like making as much profit as possible. But now I'm just like, I just want to make the best network I can possibly make and really attract really dope people, that I would want to create with and network with and see what happens from those connections and that synergy. And same thing with the clothing brand. Like Chloe and I are working on it and just making sure that the designs are just really, really dope.
I love when we see like, it's because it's so rare for someone to be doing one thing on the internet and they have this, this very strict info product and they're promoting and everything's kind of filtered around that to do such a 180. And I think that in some ways, like the realness of that creates so much goodwill with the audience. Like there's definitely a source of like, they feel that within themselves. Like they feel how multifaceted their interests and ways that they are. And to see like one of their favorite creators go through this evolution, it creates this almost like we've talked about true fans a bunch of times. It creates almost a stronger sense of that.
A sense of true fans?
Yeah. Or just people who are like, man, I just love this. Like I love the evolution here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
certainly.
Yeah. And so you also had this beautiful post. I think it was a few days before or a few days after the release of the album. I can't really remember, where you were talking about feeling yourself going back into that marketer mode. And I just thought it was so well put. You want to, what was the essence there? Like what were you feeling?
I found myself, I put all this work into into the album. And then I was thinking, like, after I'd finished it and scheduled the release date, I was like, all right, well, what do I do now? You know? And I was like, well, I guess I should make a marketing plan. And, as harmful as Kanye has been to our Jewish people, which I am Jewish, technically speaking, and was raised Jewish. But there's this quote that Kanye says that just sticks out in my mind. He said it on a podcast, and he was just like, stop strategizing so much. Stop planning. And I just hear that over and over. And I'm like, so I found myself like strategizing my album release and like strategizing a marketing plan around it, and like it just felt like I was going backward a little bit.
Yeah.
As opposed to just realizing the best form of marketing is just good art.
Yeah.
Like
slower, but
it's slower.
It's
yeah.
the truer form.
The marketing is the art. Like the album, if it's good, people share it.
Yep.
And if the right person hears it, then it can change everything. A TikToker, for example, could hear it with 50 million. Charlie D'Amelio could hear it and make it one TikTok, and then I'm all of a sudden doing shows and wherever, right? So, or who knows, maybe producing for some other artists or whatever. So I just stepped back and I was like, I don't need to, Chloe says this, I don't need to put a bumper sticker on a Bentley, right? Like,
Love that.
It's already beautiful. So let me just kind of do more natural feeling marketing around it, which is, I don't even like the word marketing. Like, it just, like, do you market the Mona Lisa? I guess so. But it markets itself, really. And all you're doing, all the marketing, all real marketing books are talking about, the business marketing books in the business section at Barnes & Noble are just imitating what real art naturally accomplishes. Like, this painting behind me that Sage Willows created, it's 1 of 16. Why is it 1 of 16? And just to create scarcity? No, he painted 16 in the series, and that's just how it emerged out of the depths of his soul. And he has a picture with Chef Nobu, the owner of Nobu, founder of Nobu, who bought one of his pieces. Marketers would call that social proof. For Sage, it's just one of his collectors.
Yep. Just a guy who liked his stuff.
Just a guy who liked his stuff.
Yep.
Who happened to be Chef Nobu. And like, he's conscious enough to know, like, okay, if I post this,
that's going to be big.
It's influential, but it's not like what a marketer might do is be like, oh, let's pay Nobu to buy one of our paintings so that then we have the social proof, and that maybe has a return on investment of our paying for or like, let's pay hot girls to be in the video so that it looks like that, So there's a balance there where you're not quite now, because I do believe you should do some stuff around.
Yeah, there's a give take.
Yeah. And that's kind of something I'm still sorting out. I don't have it perfected, but I'm like, here's a perfect example. I knew that I had to create this album set, which is essentially a piece of marketing content, also part of the art form, I guess. And the universe met me halfway with it. I think you're going the right direction when the universe is constantly meeting you halfway, making situations line up. If you're beating your head against a wall to make something happen, and it's just not, there's a sense of it just isn't flowing, then it's just not the right
fit.
You're probably forcing some bumper sticker onto a Bentley.
Yeah, you're trying to force something that's not the right fit for that time period.
Yeah.
And so for the individual tracks on the album, I think it's the first song on the album, which is Seek God. Whose voice is in that?
Yeah, so Seek God First is the first song on the album. It's kind of an introductory song. Like, most albums have an intro song, right? And you have the individual voice, which is actually the voice of Paramhansa Yogananda.
I was going to ask. That's what I thought.
Seek ye the kingdom of God first. No matter what your vocation is, first seek God. And then it goes into this harmonium, which is it's actually the same instrument that they use in the ashram during meditations at the SRF. And so there's a harmonium, which is an ancient, Indian instrument. Actually, the sitar is. I don't know how far back the harmonium goes, but it is an Indian, traditionally Indian thing. Instrument. And so you have that come in, and then you have this, in the valley of sorrow, 1,000 years until tomorrow, but I'll wait for you, just you. So that, and just like very deep, like men's choir, that's me.
That's you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I layered my voice like a bunch of different times and different distances from the mic. And some of them are more nasally. Some, like, I'm literally going, in the valley of sorrow, like that. And some I'm like, in the valley of sorrow. Like, I'm very dynamic with my voice.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Some I'm even like, in the valley of sorrow. And like, I don't know how to sing really, but I can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just sounds like a bunch of guys in like a Viking choir singing this song, which, by the way, I mentioned the ashram. Every Sunday they have 3-hour meditations.
Yep.
And there's chanting in the first, chanting sounds weird and like woo-woo, but it's basically these ancient Indian songs that have been around for millennia, thousands of years. And one of the songs is called In the Valley of Shadow. And the lyrics are, in the valley of shadow, 1,000 years until tomorrow, but I'll wait for you. My Lord, I'll wait to see you, you. My heart's aflame, my soul's afire. My heart's aflame, my soul's afire, just for you. That means you is referencing the kingdom of heaven, or God's kingdom, or God the Father, or Sat. Om is another word. By the way, Om and Amen are the same, pointing to the same frequency of energy, which is the sound of God. So it's the whole, to start the album, it's like, that's the message. It's like, whatever you do in life, start with God. Start with finding the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven within you. And so that's that like very ominous but commanding presence of that sort of choir singing that. And then it says, ordinary people seek the world. Yogananda comes back in. Ordinary people seek the world, but all who are wise seek the kingdom of God. So what that means is ordinary people seek the world, meaning ordinary people are out on Instagram chasing the Rolexes, and I'm wearing a Rolex, but fuck it. Yeah. Like they're chasing the external. Yeah. They're the monk who sold his Ferrari.
Yeah.
Right? They're chasing money, they're chasing jets, they're chasing girls, everything external,
Worldly.
except for what they're sitting within. Like, it's to set the tone that, we are all the beggar that hasn't realized that we're sitting on a box of gold our entire life. And that's the first tone, and then that cuts off and this kind of flute comes in. And that's probably my favorite part of the whole album, when the flute comes in and then it just like heats up and it's just this so that's kind of the story behind Seek God First.
Yeah. It's just such a great message. And like, I was in the gym not too long ago, and I had a realization that, like, no matter what happens, if I have a body that's capable of going to the gym, I always have a home away from home, no matter where I am.
Your body's a temple.
Body's a temple. And it's almost the same thing with like a meditation practice, or just reconnecting to that, that flow or that state of peace within yourself. If you have the ability to do that, no matter where you are in the world, like, you always have a center to return back to.
Dude, people, I'm so glad you brought that up about how your body is home. Your body is a temple. Your body is an ashram. Your body is a mosque. Your body is a church. Every spiritual tradition has said, like, your body is a temple. And it literally is, because your soul is your connection to God. Your soul is inside of you. Your body is a temple. If you don't take care of the temple, God destroys the temple. Meaning, if you don't meditate, you don't sit at the throne of God within you, honor yourself through meditation, you'll have restless thoughts, pain in your chest, blockages. You'll be obsessed with the world and trying to find happiness in things that always fade away. But the only thing that is eternal resides in the shrine within yourself. And so you have to start there.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through each song?
Yeah. Or some of your favorites, whichever way you kind of want to approach it.
So the second song, and there's an order to this. We'll see if anyone can pick up on it. But the first song is Seek God First. The second is Through the Fire. This is featuring one of my favorite artists. I'm so actually grateful and blessed that I got to create with Rapta. He's a good friend of mine. Met him 4 or 5 years ago. But it's kind of weird when you become friends with someone, but they're an artist and you're just like a fan at the same time. Like, I love Rapta's. He's just so dope. And he traditionally makes, hip hop and, rap, singing, R&B, rap, hip hop kind of in there. But I love his music. And I had him on the song because that song, I originally was on a plane when I was making it, flying from Boston to LA. And I was in the air and I was making it, and I just like, again, the same thing. Like I just heard Rapta singing over the instrumental that I had cooked up.
It just came to you.
Yeah, and I heard I wrote down the lyrics, and the lyrics were about like, it was actually a breakup song originally, and completely different lyrics. And I texted him, I was like, hey, I think, and he knew I'd been working on music. I was like, hey, I think you should sing. I hear your voice on this song. He's like, bet, let's do it. So I go over, show him the lyrics. I sing it how he would sing it, and he does it. And on it, I'll play it for you after. It's a really good song, like the original version. But then Rapta texted me, a couple days later after I was pretty excited about it. He was like, hey, I don't think I really fuck with this. He was like, I don't really like how it came out. I don't like the lyrics. I don't like how I sound on it. And I was like, what? And I got all attached, and I was like, what do you mean? This sounds amazing. Like, he's like, I want to change it, or I want to start over. And I was like, what the? Oh, no. I was just like, no, you don't get it. Like, this was the original inspiration. It has to be like this. And he taught me something, very spiritual lesson. He's like, yeah, but man, listen, like, I know you're kind of newer to music. He's been doing it forever. He's like, I am the featured artist on the song. I have to be excited about the song. I also honestly just think you are attached to the original idea, which in music all the time changes. And you have what's called demo-itis, which is an attachment to the first version, the first draft, because I kept listening to it over and over. Mm-hmm. So he makes a new version, his lyrics, which turns into Through the Fire, which lyrics are, I know you've been overthinking, overdrinking, underwater, sinking. Know that you've been through the fire, through the water, taken under. Want to take you higher up. Want to take you out the club. Want to give you all my love. Mm-hmm. Want to get you fired up. And he wrote that. And I also added some piano to the production, and we fixed the levels and stuff. And after listening to it a couple times, I was like, this is better. And I was like, you're right, man. And then we rearranged some things, and he actually wrote it, it sounds like it's to a girl. But what's funny is, and he's not going to the ashram every Sunday like I am and thinking about it in this way. I don't even know if he would say that the lyrics are this way, but the way I look at it is it's like speaking from the peace, the kingdom of God within you, down to your lower self, your higher self to your lower self. I know you've been overthinking, over drinking, overwhelmed, underwater, sinking. You've been through the fire. I want to take you higher up. And so it's the second song. It's like the purpose of this whole project is ascension, taking you higher to a higher level of consciousness, higher level of energy. And then the song just gradually heats up, and it goes into this deeper house kind of, feels almost like Afro house a bit. And then it just hits this like hard, like drone horn sound that I made in Serum, which is like a music sound creation software. And it just hits. Like people are saying it's their favorite song on the album. And I would agree. That
was definitely the first one that like I was doing work when I heard the album for the first time. Yeah. And then that's when I like stopped and like checked what song he's playing, because I wanted to remember that one.
Yeah, the first Seek God First is meant to be like, the fuck is this? Like it's meant to be like stop you and be like, I'm curious what your reaction was at first when you heard that deep voice come in.
Dude, I mean, having known you, it seemed like that was a very fitting way to open it.
Okay.
So I definitely wasn't taken too far back.
Okay.
It definitely felt like it fit you as a person.
Got it. Okay.
Which was obviously a reflection of you as an artist.
But it is a little like, okay, I kind of wasn't expecting that. Yeah. Right?
Do you know Tom Misch? Do you know Tom Misch at all?
No.
It reminded me of a Tom Misch song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to listen.
Yeah, I'll show you after. But Through the Fire. That was the first track. I was like, damn, he's onto something here.
Yeah.
And then it goes into To Be.
Yes. So To Be is, we were talking about this one this morning. This one's really going back to a lot of my roots, both in music and in my practice of learning about truth. So you have the jazz saxophone and the jazz piano. And I grew up, mainly the genre I played was jazz piano. So like jazz improv and like Thelonious Monk and, Ray Charles. And so like just kind of bringing those elements into a house song, but then simultaneously bringing in the voice of Eckhart Tolle, talking about the kingdom of heaven within and the words of Jesus and spaciousness, right? And this idea, the song is called To Be. So like being, like that Eckhart's just always talking about just be. Don't do, be. Don't focus on the acts of your life, focus on just being. So then what happens is there's a transition a couple minutes in, and you have this like bum 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 bum, and now all of a sudden you're in some like crazy Miami club or like Tulum or like Saint-Tropez type vibe, and it's just the kick comes in, it's like bum 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 bum, and then it slowly builds. It's like the kingdom of heaven. And the reason this works so well in my view, and maybe why it feels so good, is because it's truly emblematic of what happens in your life when you start reading Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
You start reading Eckhart Tolle, you're like, oh, this old German man is talking about just paying attention to the space between your thoughts. And like, it's so calm. But when you go into presence and you meditate, your life just gets lit. Like when I first started reading it, that was right when I'm meditating and listening to I listened to The Power of Now and A New Earth like 50 times on Audible. And like my life just got lit. Like I was just, all of a sudden my YouTube channel blew up. At the time I was single and I was like kind of partying and stuff too. I don't know. It was just like,
things just aligned. Things started to align.
But in a way of like, you couldn't, it feels like a part, like your life actually becomes, despite Eckhart being so reserved and calm sounding, when you prioritize being, your natural state of enthusiasm and joy and ecstasy emanates from your core. And it just comes out of nowhere, like that part of the song. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I interpret To Be.
Yeah. I feel that during podcasts a lot. Like that is a lot of times when I feel most tapped into that state.
Yes.
And then it's like this presence of I'm listening so intently that the thoughts go away.
Yes.
And then there's such an enjoyment and peace in that moment. Mm-hmm. And then after, you just feel this like afterglow high, almost like you just gain so much energy from doing the thing. It's funny how those two things align in that way.
Completely.
Yeah. And so what's the song after To Be?
It's Free to Dream.
Free to Dream.
Yeah. So this is the one that actually features Chloe. I got Chloe to sing, and Chloe's a bit bashful of her singing voice. She's never sang before, but kind of coached her into it. And this one is, there's kind of two levels. The first is it's about our relationship. So I mentioned before, our relationship was one of control, third chakra energy. Mm. You have to behave like this in order to please me, in order to make me feel love, in order to make me feel in love with you, in order for me to feel free, right? You have to do what I say. But over the journey, meditation and really realizing that what I had been doing is not something that most women would be super stoked about. Like, I'm going to quit work, quit my job to be a musician. But Chloe was fully supportive, really the whole time. I mean, toward the end there, she got a little like, okay, I think we should maybe go back to money. But like, she fully trusted me. Yeah. And because of that, and in our entire relationship, I've always felt totally free to dream. That's just as simple as that. Like I haven't felt judged. I haven't felt weirded, like she's weirded out or she's going to leave me for some guy with money or she's going to leave me because I'm making a different decision and changing. And the song is about how I felt with her, but also about how I've learned to, and been learning and still learning to treat her, which is just freedom. Like a relationship is not about control, and love is not about control. A relationship is about giving someone the space to be exactly who they are and who they choose to be today, tomorrow, 50 years from now, and giving them that. It's much like this podcast, honestly. This is why you're so good at podcasting, is like, you give me a space to express myself. In a relationship with the person of the opposite sex, or whatever, same sex, whatever people are into, however the polarity works out, it's harder to maintain this space over decades.
Yeah.
But she's maintained it for me, dude. And like, it's freeing, and it just, it makes it better. And this, in my opinion, the song gets better and better and better. And more, it's like things come unexpectedly that you couldn't even be conscious of before.
Yeah. Because
you have this partner who's supportive. And so it's about what I felt, but more importantly, what I'm now really learning to give, which is space for her to develop and be exactly who she wants to be. And she might do things that I don't like, and she might do things that piss me off. And
that's where your practice comes in.
That's where the practice comes in, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one level. The other level is when you are free because you have contacted that sense of God within you. And that's, I have to say, truly where you find freedom, because you find it independent of somebody else. The true relationship is when both people have found that kingdom of heaven within themselves, and they share that spaciousness with the other. Mm-hmm. But it starts from within yourself. You have to find it within yourself before you can give it.
I think it's one of the most famous studies with relationships, where they found that the most common predictor of a successful relationship is two people that were happy and satisfied before the relationship.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in my case, I would say I wasn't I entered the relationship from a paradigm of control. Mm-hmm. But over time, I've learned that she's really taught me to make my happiness independent of her actions, behaviors, and her happiness independent of mine. Mm-hmm. It's really, that's the meaning behind that one. The next one is Where the Kings Roam.
This is a good one. This is a fun one. This one's almost like Seek God-esque.
Yes.
Yes.
Very mantra feeling, repetitive, housey, deep housey. But it also comes from one of those ancient several thousand year old mantras, where I was in the ashram at the 3-hour meditation, and they're singing this song, and it's it's like a woman singing this song, and it's very weird. There's more lyrics to it as well, and they're singing it over and over, and they have like a very light instrument, and it's like, I will roam, I will roam, I will roam and roam with Om. I will roam, I will be the king of the land through which I roam. And it's very soft. Mm-hmm. But when I was meditating, I just was like, yo, that right now sounds a bit weird. But I heard it and I was like, that's actually a bar. Like, that's hard.
Yeah.
I will be the king of the land I roam. Like, I roam. I'm just picturing like this group of like Vikings comes to mind. Just Vikings chanting together like, I roam. And like, at the time I mentioned the coach I was working with, Alan. He always talked about like how you have to be a king everywhere you go, in your relationship, in every conversation you have, you view yourself as a king. And then there's this mantra, this 1,000-year-old mantra, I will be the king of the land I roam. And so again, that's me just going, I roam, like very powerful, right? And my audio engineer, when we were recording, he was like, you sing, when you sing it, you sing to Mexico. Yeah. So it's like you're singing down and like hard. And so it's just very empowering. And I want it stuck in people's head to the point where they remember, and they just, throughout their day, they're just like, I'm a king.
Yeah, it's a mantra.
It's a mantra.
With you. Yeah,
exactly.
That is beautiful. That's
Yeah.
very cool. And then is it wait for it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we've
So wait for it.
about.
You know, we talked a bit about, but wait for it's about a creative explosion. You know, it's about finally unleashing the resistance.
Yep.
The chains are shackled off, and it's just like bum bum bum. You listen to the song, you'll know what I mean.
Yep.
But it's just a total release, and that's what kicked off the whole project. So that's that. I have to go to the bathroom again.
Yeah. No worries. So we're on wait for
Wait
it.
for it.
Is that the last song on the album?
No, there's 2 more.
There's 2 more.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 8, of course.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Of course. Would only make sense.
Yeah. So wait for it. Creative explosion. The next one is Disciple. That's the one with Jack Bratzett, who again used to work for me, but then became a DJ and then started producing as well. And so what was interesting is, like, you know, Jack's younger than me. When I first brought him on to work with me, he was like completely different person. Very shy, introverted, hadn't seen a lot of the world. Like, I taught this kid so much about just life in general.
That's cool. That's nice having someone like that.
Yeah. But you know, he's talented, really good videographer and creative. And he was my disciple for a few years. But then what happened is, like, he, before me, went on this path of music and producing and becoming a DJ. And it's almost like the roles started to switch. So Disciple is about this, like, I would call it like guru-disciple relationship, where the master becomes a student and the student becomes the master. And there's this constant learning back and forth from each other. And so it's a journey too. It's really like that song is really, it's a journey. That's all I can say. Now the last one is Free the People. Okay. This one is one of my favorites for sure.
Cool one.
Yeah, it's like a festival song. You picture like 100,000 people dancing at, you know, whatever, maybe like Coachella, or maybe not Coachella, maybe more like an Ultra or something. And in 2023, I went to Cape Town, South Africa, recorded these little girls singing and dancing in the streets. And as soon as it was a 1-minute clip, I recorded it, pressed stop, and I was like watching it back. I'm like, this is a world famous house anthem. And I recorded it. I'm sitting there. I'm like, 2023, you know, year and a half ago. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to turn this into a song, but someday someone is going to, and it's going to be the biggest song in the world. And I ran home to my Airbnb I was staying at. I played it for my friends. I was like, guys, like, do you hear this? I played it for Chloe. And they're just like, yeah, man, cool. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is the most lit song on the planet. And so that one took the longest probably out of all of them to really figure out, because the audio quality on the sample is not that good. But I got better and better and dialed it in. And there's actually like lightning strikes and rain that happens at the drop.
Whoa.
And my vision is it's the last song on the album, and it's like a rain dance. It's like a purification. It's a freedom of everyone, right? And yeah, it's like a baptism. You know, it's like the transformation is complete type feeling. You're totally free. Disciple, I guess, is like the last step of the journey where it gets difficult, but then Free the People is the climax. Everyone is freed. Their souls are freed. So the whole album, I don't know if you knew this, but it's actually instructions. So it's seek God first, through the fire, to be free to dream where the kings roam. Wait for it, disciple, free the people.
And it also seems like it reflects your own internal journey as well.
Exactly.
Like, it's...
Seek God first through the fire. Even if it gets hard externally, if you're running out of money, you don't know if you're going to be able to afford rent, seek God first through the fire. To be, focus on being, free to dream, allow everyone around you to be who they are, empower them to be who they are, surround yourself with people that support you, to be free to dream where the kings roam. Treat yourself as a king, surround yourself with kings, and then wait for it. Over time, it might be difficult. You're going through the fire, through the water, take it under, but wait for it. Be a disciple, be a learner, be a master and a student at the same time, and then free the people. Meaning, take what you've learned and empower others. Spread the good news, evangelize, and free everyone's soul from the torture that everyone finds themselves in.
How did that story come together in terms of the each individual song? Did it come into your mind like, okay, the song Disciple, it's about me and Jack's relationship and that journey, or did it just evolve naturally?
Yeah.
Those spots, and then
the placement of the album as a directions happened within the last minute before uploading it.
That's so cool.
They didn't really make sense before, and then I was like, wait a second, and I rearranged them, and I was like,
holy shit.
What? I was just like, how does that happen without me pre-planning it?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. And it seems like this 3-hour meditation that you would do on Sundays had a really big role in the way everything turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you would have been able to do it without it? Or do you think that tapping into that stillness for that extended amount of time weekly while you are in this deep state of creativity, it kind of has this, like a tornado or upward spiral effect where, it enhances everything because you have so deeply in the creative act, and then you have this reflection time?
Yeah, to that I would say, the question is, did the 3-hour meditation every Sunday help the creative act?
Yeah.
Help me be able to
tap in
to do this.
Yeah.
And I would say it's not even a thing where it's like me being able to do it. What the meditation did is it put me out of the way so that power could come through me.
Yep.
And not be blocked by resistance. So the 3-hour meditation is just like a charging of your consciousness and your entire being with like that feeling of God and the presence of peace and joy that you feel within, so that when I wake up on Monday morning, I'm dialed in to the point where, and often God manifests within you as wisdom and insight. So, even this past Sunday I went and I just got a huge download, like just plans for what I'm supposed to do next with the 8 a.m. club and the content team. Just oh, I now know what to do. And so that would happen with the music. Mm-hmm. That happens, so it's Arlin is the problem. The meditation is to get Arlin out of the way.
Yep.
The spiritual great ones Jesus said, I and my Father are one, meaning there is no more personal identity. You're just a vessel for the energy flow of God's consciousness to work through you and to ultimately be the thing that creates the work. So the meditation, it's about getting the ego self out of the way.
It's funny. It's a really common theme you hear with artists, just talking about removing yourself, removing your own, whatever it is, ego, preconceived notions, whatever, to just really just tap into that core essence and just focus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes total sense why we have so much reverence for artists.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're doing. They're putting people look at artists like gods, but there's a reason for that. It's because they've cleared out their ego so that God can communicate through them. And so then we, of course, get obsessed with the person, but it's not about the person.
Yep.
It's about the energy that went instead of the person.
Beautiful. Yeah. Awesome, bro. Is there anything that you think we haven't touched on that we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about?
Clean Boy Fall.
Clean Boy Fall. Let's talk about it. I'm glad you brought this up because I remember when the travel hoe stuff was going on. And I was like, what's happening? What's going on here? I think people were freaked out, dude.
Travel hoe was genius. Fully genius. Fully crazy. Nick Cosman, still to this day, I am a little concerned about him. I don't know if he's well in the head. I'm not going to lie. And I say that openly, knowing that he may see this, knowing that he's perfectly fine with me saying that. Because Travel Ho, everyone was concerned, yet everyone was paying attention.
Yeah, you were locked in. I was locked in.
People wanted to know what Travel Ho was doing every day. And I was getting a lot of pushback when I was doing that. You know, Arlin, Nick's crazy. He's losing his mind. You know, you're ruining all this hard work you've put into your brand and the integrity of your brand. And but they're still paying attention. And then I started, I really thought about the best artists of all time and the best performers of all time. Around the same time I was doing that, actually a little later, Ryan Garcia had a big fight. Garcia Haney, I think it was. And Ryan was full psychopath.
Oh, yeah.
Bohemian Groves, conspiracy, Freemason conspiracy, 9/11 conspiracy, new OnlyFans girl. He's proposing buying $1 million ring for this girl every day. Crazy.
Yeah.
Ryan Garcia was being a travel hoe. And travel hoe is just about tapping into the poop of the mainstream media of social media these days, which the craziest, most outlandish person is who gets the eyeballs.
Yep.
And what did Ryan Garcia do 3 days before his fight, after he'd grown, he probably generated billions of impressions. Oh, yeah. Probably billions of people knew about that fight.
And so many more people would watch that fight who wouldn't have without all the craziness that transpired beforehand.
3 days before the fight of him, talking about Bohemian Grove conspiracy, whatever, and child molesting stuff, he's like, yeah, by the way, fight in 3 days, pay-per-view, go buy it.
Yep.
And everyone bought it.
And he's like, yeah, I'm drunk. I'm drinking the day of the fight. He said that he had at the weigh-ins, he had chugged a beer. Yep. In hindsight, he said the beer was like apple juice or something.
Yeah.
And, but just tapping into the poop of social media, which is a great way to put it.
Yeah. So, Travel Ho was that era. Clean Boy Fall is just kind of another sort of, iteration, I guess. But it's also contrary to Brat Summer, because Brat, Charlie XCX was talking about how it's good to be, dirty, slutty, wear your makeup to bed, party girl.
Yep.
And people identified with that for some reason. I don't know why, but I identify as just being clean and wearing nice smelling cologne and showering twice a day and taking my girlfriend to a Pilates class and praying to God and just being clean, a clean vessel for God. And that's why it's Clean Boy Fall. So I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah. It's fun to play around with those things, see what sticks. And
Yeah,
that's fun stuff. So question for, this is a little off topic and a very selfish question.
Sure.
But having done, this is our third episode together. With our first two episodes, I was still in college. And, I love doing the podcast. Podcast is definitely the passion project, but I haven't committed to going all in on it yet, because just, had so much stuff going on. Now that I'm in the position to, commit to this thing and really try to, I don't want to go in like a clickbaity route, but to go all in with it. What advice would you have for me?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that you should continue to ask selfish questions, because what you're wondering probably, like that question, I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, I want to go all in on my thing. I see you just did that despite all the fear and the outer worries, right? So everything you're wondering, we're happy to talk about it another hour if you wanted to. I would say the key is to listen to the 8 a.m. album.
Hey.
No, but seriously,
No, yeah.
like seek God first through the fire to be free to dream where the kings roam. Wait for it, disciple, free the people. So, every morning, wake up, touch the bedrock of consciousness within yourself, touch your soul, which is a everlasting peace, such that even if you had no money left in your bank account, you have your Eckhart Tolle, you have $1,000 left in your account, you don't care because you're doing what your soul's path is supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're supposed to be doing this, money will find a way to work itself out. The worst that can happen is, I can't say this for everyone. I guess you can do some version, but the worst that happens is you move back in with your parents and you do the podcast from there, or grandparents if parents aren't around or it's not possible, or you move in with a friend who just supports you. And that just makes the story even more epic.
Yeah. And the way society is, we have so much, all the walls nowadays are cushioned unless you're doing drugs or whatever. Like if you're actually doing the right things and, externally the money isn't coming together, for most people, they have the walls cushioned enough to, even if they fall, the fall is protected.
Yeah.
You don't have to be so scared to make some moves.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be people listening from less privileged backgrounds who can't just go to mom and dad's house, right? But even for them, it's like,
But even for them, it's like, how much further can you fall?
Exactly. Yeah. So I can't stress enough, the most important thing is the touching that peace every single morning. And then also hitting that spiritual gym, 30 minutes a day, read something. Surrender Experiment is a great book to read if you're on this kind of path, by Michael Singer. If you're a Christian, read the Bible. If you're Jewish, read the Torah. If you're Muslim, read the Quran. Like read your spiritual, but get strong there. And then everything else, you just don't even care. Like you might worry here and there, but then it's like, okay, pause, prioritize the kingdom within. Reconnect. And, read stories of people that have been on this path too. Like A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle talks about it. Yogananda, when he came here, there was a time where they thought they were going to run out of money building these, these ashrams. And I don't think they'd even built one yet. I think they maybe had like a small school that they were operating out of. But then he met this businessman right when they were about to run out of money who just fell in love with the teachings. And this guy ended up donating like $6 million, which today would be the equivalent of like 65 million. And Michael Singer, almost ran out of money several times, but last minute, the right person, the right check, the right podcast sponsor shows up to save the day. But ultimately, it's not even about that. It's just about being at peace. This is why the story of Jesus is so powerful, because like here's a guy who was crucified, depending on whether you believe it or not, I guess, but who was put up on the cross and enduring the most insane physical punishment that a body could endure, being whipped with metal shards and bone whips, and then literally having a spear shoved through your heart, basically. And yet he was still forgiving he was forgiving the people that were doing it. Like he was still spiritually strong. Yeah. So that's why that story is so powerful to me, is like, okay, you're low on funds.
There's worse in life.
There's worse.
Yeah. And especially when you're doing things not out of sloth, there's a certain amount of, you're not going to regret those things.
Yeah.
Arlin, such a great episode. So good to do it. And it's fun when, now I'm so excited to re-listen to the album, because I think it's going to bring so much more meaning to the songs that I first listened to. And then two, it's like, a great conversation happens where there's this perfect arc to it.
Yeah.
Where it's just like a story, it's a rising action, climax, falling action, and everything pieces back together.
Yeah.
Perfectly. And, I think it's a reflection of, how much thought you put into this, and just a good catch up.
Yeah. Thank you. I think you really are a master of podcasting. So I hope that you continue to pursue it, because
I appreciate it.
It's the energy that you hold and allow the guests to bring forth is unmatched. So,
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
That means a lot.